Hi folks, back again, Bathrobe Chronicles number 201. By the way, today's the day that the world was coming to an end, or whatever was going to happen, and golly, it didn't. But that's not what I want to talk about. Had something interesting happen, and I want to ask your advice. A while back, I got a letter. Had no idea who the person was, the return address. I open it up. Dear George, you don't know me. My name is, and I won't mention the real name, Fred Astaire or whomever. And first thing I ask is that you please read this letter to the end. The reason I'm not going to read it to you is that, gosh, I forget how many pages it was, but I can pretty much sum it up. Let me get my watch. So the fellow goes on to say that he was in what seemed a minor car accident at an awfully, like at a 40 miles an hour or something, but it was an older car. It didn't have airbags, and he ended up with a fairly serious brain injury. I think he said they, as I remember, put him in one of those medically induced comas or whatever, and he was really out, so to speak, for several months. He said that when he was sort of coming around in the hospital and making progress, he had some weird experiences about thinking about things, and then the things came true. He said it really frightened him somewhat, because he had just been through this horrible experience, and now he's having these, feelings that he's never had before. Okay, let's cut to the chase. The fellow said that this fellow, is psychic, and he can see into the future and know what's going to happen. He said at first, it was just sort of a random kind of thing. Things would sort of pop into his head. And he claimed that somehow he got to the point where he could direct these not necessarily images as such, these thoughts that would come into his head. He could, by sort of experimenting, he could think of things, and then the answer would come to him. Of course, I'm thinking about this time, yeah, sure. But I figured, hey, whatever, I've wasted a lot of time anyway, plus this is psychic stuff, which I really like. So I continued plodding through, all these pages. Then he said that the reason he was writing is he wanted to make money for himself and money for me. He said that after the months in the hospital, when he got home, he still wasn't able to go back to work right away. And he started playing around, not playing sport choice of words, he started doing further experiments, if you will, with this psychic ability. And he started going to all these psychic places, on the internet, like some of us do, and went to Sylvia Brown and all these other people. So he concluded that they were all charlatans and all frauds. He went on to explain that he was heavily in debt, that he graduated from high school, but he always had pretty low-paying jobs. He had 2 children, and not only was he heavily in debt, credit card debt, a couple of bank loans, but this medical stuff, a lot of it wasn't covered. So he, of course, is desperate for money. He said all of these frauds out there would say things like, oh, I'm not going to use my special, what do they call it, gift, to give you lottery numbers and things of that nature. And he said that didn't make any sense to him. So what he decided he was going to do was he was going to experiment with basketball games. And he started predicting these things. And he said that he did it. He was 100%. That was it. And then he started predicting other kinds of things and seeing other kinds of things, if you will. So about this time I'm thinking, why is this guy writing me if he can predict these basketball games? And why doesn't he just go down there and, you know, bet on these games or what have you and, you know, get a lot of money? Well, excuse me. He said the problem is that he didn't want to become known, if you will, in casinos, or, you know, where you do that sports betting stuff out in Las Vegas. And he also didn't want to deal with bookies. He said, you know, he's been a regular guy, law-abiding citizen and all that. He also said, which was strange, that he was going to claim the money as income. He wasn't going to try and hide any money that he actually won. He said his goal was simple. He loved his wife, loved his 2 kids, was heavily in debt, had worked like a dog all of his life, menial, not menial jobs, but you know what I mean, jobs where you work hard for little money. He said he always had 1 or 2 part-time jobs, and he just wanted to be able to take care of his family. He wanted to get a lot of money in a hurry and then retire. He said he and his wife found this great place out in the country, 25 acres. They wanted to build a house. He wanted to put enough money in the bank to take care of his family forever. He wanted trust funds for both daughters, and on and on and on. You know, pretty cool thinking kind of guy. Excuse me, it's the old smoke alarm. Anyway, so I'm wondering, you know, why do you need me? And what his explanation was, as that he didn't want to become known in the casinos and any kind of possible problems that may cause. And, you know, because if he went in there and won all the time, people would start wondering. In fact, what he said he did is he went in and placed really modest bets because he has absolutely no money. And so, you know, nobody really pays any attention to him. So he figured the easiest thing to do is to get a bunch of money coming in from people who he gives this information to. I'm beginning to think, you know, this, well, let's face it, I don't believe in psychics. So I was having a hard time with this. It was all baloney. He goes on and on and on and on. So ultimately, here's what he says. He's going to start sending me, not tips, because he guarantees that he's the real deal and all that mess. And he's going to send me the teams and tell me who's going to win. And he says he's going to do that 8 times. And then he said, then I'm going to start asking you for money if you want any more. He says, you know, you can go win as much as you want on the 8 times. And then, you know, not give me any money. That's fine. I have no control over what you do. But I'm asking for some big bucks. That's all there is to it. He says, I don't know how long this is going to last, so I want to make as much money as I can, meaning his psychic abilities. He obviously attributed it to some kind of brain mess, which of course makes absolutely no sense because there's still not a mechanism for it to work. Regardless of what they did to his brain, how's that going to make him psychic? You know, the whole thing is absurd. But anyway, hey, it didn't cost me anything. So I started getting these, actually it ended up he sent postcards. And I think I let 4 or 5 of them go by. And they were on the money. Then I made a modest bet on the 6th, and a modest bet on the 7th, and a modest bet on the 8th. And everything worked. So now, I've got to start sending him money. And the card that I got said, actually it was a letter, he sent a letter about the money. He said that it would be $2,000 for 2 or 3 weeks, I can't remember, then $5,000 for 2 or 3 weeks, and then it would be a flat $10,000 every week that I wanted his predictions, or not his predictions, I wanted his information about who was going to win these games. So the dilemma I have is, yes, I made a little bit of money, not much, And I'm trying to decide what to do here. I mean, this whole thing goes against everything that I believe in. But, I mean, what would you do? I don't know. It's all pretty weird. Well, where's the little thing here? Oh, yeah. Anyway, I guess that's sort of it. Why don't you think about that? And if you have any comments or something, go ahead and shoot them off to me. I'd appreciate it. Hope you guys are doing well. As Pat Condell would say, peace, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.